Louisiana Legends is made possible by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana. This informative, educational series enables us to discover, through the accomplishments of our fellow Louisianians, the unique character of the state so proudly served by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana for more than 65 years.
Marc Charles Breaux was born in Carencro, Louisiana in 1923. As many young Depression-era kids, he had to make up ways of entertaining his friends and family. This childhood fun began Marc's love for dancing. Marc grew up in Lafayette, attended Southwestern Louisiana Institute, and served his country as a Navy test pilot from 1943 to 46. After the war, Marc and his sister moved to New York, and literally within days was discovered. He joined the prestigious Charles Weidman Dance Company. Marc found time to fall in love and married Dee Dee Wood, who was also a dancer. Dee Dee teamed up with Marc professionally, and they started to choreograph their own dance numbers. Marc's career exploded. His most famous work began as choreographer for the TV series The Fred Waring Show from 1950 to 54, and quickly moved into movies. And Disney asked him and Dee Dee to choreograph Mary Poppins.
Beautiful. Lovely, tell you, Mum. Hello, hello, hello.
Their athletic style of dance and high energy numbers are classics. Disney went on to have Marc and Dee Dee choreograph The Sound of Music, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and The Happiest Millionaire. Marc wasn't satisfied as a choreographer. He went on to direct such TV shows as Fred Astaire Salutes, the Fox musicals, with such stars as Andy Williams, Judy Garland, Jack Benny, Jiminy Durante, and his old friend Dick Van Dyke.
He was about the best male dancer I ever saw. We were both roughly the same size and build, you know, so I always aspired to do what Marc could do, but he was such an athlete.
Marc continues to dance and act, and in 1998 received the American Choreography Career Achievement Award. Marc also was recognized by the University of Louisiana in Lafayette with the first Marc Breaux Endowed Scholarship in Dance. Not bad for a Depression-era kid from Carencro, Louisiana.
Woo, you're looking good. Yes, indeed.
Our guest hails from Carencro, Louisiana. My guest is, in fact, Marc Breaux. Now, this is probably the only time you've seen Marc for free. He's been on the Broadway stage, television, directing and choreographing some of the world's great hits. Marc, welcome home.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You grew up in Carencro.
In Carencro, right?
But you were going to get educated in Lafayette.
Yes.
Now, how did Lafayette look to a little boy from Carencro?
Well, my mother and father moved to, I guess, when I started school, when I was 6, I think. And I got to the convent. I went to the convent, and, excuse me, and I got there, and the nun said, in English, "What is your name?" And of course, I didn't know what she was talking about, because all I spoke was French with my mother and father. And then the other children started laughing, and I thought, well, I'll never speak French again. And I started crying, and I ran back home and said, no, I'm not. You can speak French to me, but I'll answer you in English. And so I learned English in about one day because I didn't want people to laugh at me anymore.
And what is so remarkable is that thanks to Choreography, French has been restored as a proud and great language, thanks to Choreography, right here in Lafayette, where we're taping this program. Now, Marc, as a child, you were a dreamer. Tell us about these dreams. Tell us the origin.
Well, it's part, just like any other child, I guess. I just dreamed about going somewhere other than Lafayette and Carencro. However, I loved it. I still loved my hometown, and I loved all the loving that came from that. And but as far as the dream, I didn't really have any aspirations of doing anything more than winning a elocution contest or something like that at school, which I did. And at first, as a matter of fact, I remember my dog Skippy, and now there's a movie out, My Dog
That's
Skip.
right.
And I went to see that. It was an 8-handkerchief movie for me. I cried all the way through.
You had a Skippy for real.
I had a real Skippy.
Marc, you then attended a school that many of our friends won't know what we're talking about. It was called SLI.
Right.
Southwestern
Louisiana Institute.
How did you like that?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I had the last 2 years of high school, the teacher said, there's a scholarship at Southwestern if anybody knows anything about music. And I didn't know a thing, so I started taking music lessons. And my sister Billy Hebert, is she says, well, I'll pay for your music lessons if you want to go. She apparently thought that I had talent, and but I think everybody has talent. It has to be nurtured somewhere. And so I did. I think it was Miss Booty was her name that I went to. And for 2 years, I just played 3 pieces. One was Mendelssohn Scherzo, and then Indian Summer, and I don't know, and Soffigietto by Bach. And that was what you were supposed to go in front of all of the judges. And so I did do that and won a scholarship in piano after 2 years. I played all of those 3 pieces and
your repertoire.
My repertoire. And now, of course, my left hand is a little weak, so my piano days are over. But I wanted to become a doctor, pre-med, and that's what I started in. But
Marc is the most handsome man I've interviewed.
Oh, stop.
I've got to believe that played a part, but that comes later. Okay. So then in 1947, you leave Lafayette to go to New York?
Yes.
What did you think when you saw it, Marc?
Well, I didn't know I was going to really go there. I was going to New Jersey to work for Bell Laboratories as a chemical lab assistant. And I went with Dorothy Olivier, I think her name is Mills now, and Dorothy Olivia Mills, and she was going to study with Charles Wyman and Doris Humphrey for the summer. Dancing. And so I arrived there about 4 days early, and I was staying with my sister Georgie and Fernand Picou, who was going to school at Princeton. And so I wasn't too far away. I did join her one day, and she took a class with Charles Wyman. And after the class, he and Doris came and said, "Did you enjoy that?" And I said, "Yes." And he says, "Did you think you could do that?" And I thought, well, Dot and I used to dance all the time, ballroom dancing, and it didn't seem too strange to me. I told him, yes, I could do that. He said, "Well, if you want to come tomorrow, you can have a free lesson." And so I went the next day and did everything that everybody else did. And then right after that, then they said, we're looking for someone to join the company. If you were interested in joining the company, we'd be very happy. And I said, I can't do that. I have no place to stay, and I'm limited funds. Well, I went back, and Georgie and Fenton said, oh, go for it. I mean, if that's what you want to do, and which I did want to do that. So in one day, I got a job.
Which is unheard of.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
Right.
Folks, I can't tell you that Mark and I were talking to people who go there and are just beaten virtually to death
Yes.
by no opportunity or the lack of opportunity. But not Marc Breaux, because in 1 year, you were dancing in Cole Porter's magnificent, complex hit, Kiss Me Kate.
Kiss Me Kate.
Was he alive? Was he living?
Oh, yes, he was. I met him.
How did you like, what was Cole Porter, my God?
Well, I really didn't, I was a chorus boy.
Yeah.
So I did just met him, and that's about it. I never had any dialogue with him at all.
He was a genius, huh?
Absolute genius. The songs are just brilliant. Any of his songs.
Shortly thereafter, you were starring on television as a dancer and a choreographer. I know our audience is having difficulty following this. I accept responsibility. Things just happened at such an accelerated pace in the unusual life of
Yes.
Marc Breaux.
Yes, it did. I was extremely lucky. I mean, that's why I say talent. Everybody has talent, but a lot of people don't have the luck. I was lucky to get the jobs, and I don't think it had anything to do with talent, but maybe it did. I was taller than most of the boy dancers.
Now, how about choreography? Designing these intricate dances, some of which your dances are famous. How did you become a choreographer?
Well,
I don't believe you studied that with the nuns.
No, I don't think so. No. But they were very. I mean, I did learn a lot from the nuns, though, and but when you get a certain age, you really can't dance too well anymore. But you have the background knowledge of everything I had done before, and I was able to translate that to other people, and that's how the choreography started. Actually, it was my mentor and idol, Michael Kidd, who I was working with.
One of the very great
Yes.
choreographers
Right.
in history, yes.
And so he's kind of started me off. It's something that he couldn't do with Ernest Lubitsch.
Yes.
And we did Meyerling with Audrey Hepburn and Mel Ferrer at the time. And he couldn't do it, so I had to do Russian dances on tables. And that's how it really started.
Sir, you were dancer and choreographer for the Fred Waring show,
Yes.
which was a very popular show.
Yes, it was.
Did you enjoy television?
Well, at that time, yes. I was making $300 a week
Oh my
when other
gosh,
people were
yeah.
making 60.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons why I really became a dancer, because I could get jobs dancing. There weren't that many that could get them. And as an actor, I really wanted to be an actor.
Obviously, because you studied with Sandy Meisner, who was considered, just the tops in theatrical, in teaching, acting.
Yes.
He had a studio in the Village.
Yes, he and Lee Strasberg that did the
Actors Studio.
Actors Studio started with the same teacher themselves.
And you had aspirations to do straight acting.
Oh, very much so. I finally did do Tybalt in Romeo and Juliet with Lee Strasberg's daughter, Susan. And and a few Fire Exit and a few others, but acting jobs there are 10,000 to 1, and when I was a dancer,
That's the backbreaker.
That's the back. When I was a dancer, there was maybe 100 to 1, and so I got $300 was $300, so I did.
In those days that was big money.
Oh,
what?
big money.
What kind of guy was Lee Strasberg?
Well, I don't know him that well. He was the studio, actor studio.
Yes.
And I was at the neighborhood playhouse with Sandy Meisner. I loved Sandy Meisner. He was sensational.
Then you were on the Stan Kenton show. And you met a young dancer. Her name was Dee Dee Wood.
Right. Dee Dee Wood.
Wood.
She would just
Wood.
hate it if you said Wood.
Better get it right.
Right.
Now, was it instant lightning, or did it take time for a whole 6 weeks?
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we used to, during that summer, it was a summer replacement show at Stan Kenton. And we did a number, and then whenever we had breaks, we'd go outside and get, there was those snow cones.
Yes, sir.
Those people that just run around, and we'd go and eat the snow cone, try to get that headache right away, and see who would get the first headache. And, oh, I got it, I beat you.
That's the most unique competition, I think, that I've heard of. Not long after, you became one of the top Broadway choreographers. That is such an astonishing accomplishment. It's not like as a youngster you had studied with some great company, or most of it had to come right out of Marc Breaux.
Well,
to what do you attribute that talent?
Well, my mentor was Michael Kidd, and I had worked with him on a couple of shows before that. And then I just really, his choreography was very athletic, and I used to tumble a lot at SLI. I took classes in gymnastics and all that, and of course, and tennis and all that.
Now, you know, I have to tell our friends that Marc Breaux is one of two great Broadway choreographers. Another one, whom we've interviewed on this program, a New Orleans guy, Peter Gennaro.
Peter Gennaro, a very good friend.
Y'all worked together?
We worked in Kiss Me Kate together. When he had his first child, Michael, I had a garden apartment, and I was living by myself. And they had an upstairs. And when the baby came, Peter and I were working in Kiss Me Kate together, and he said, I said, Peter, why don't you we'll switch apartments. You take the downstairs apartment with a garden so that the baby can have a little sunshine every once in a while, and I'll take yours. And so we switched, and that was my remembrance of Peter. But he was wonderful. He's a wonderful.
That's called Louisiana people.
Yes.
Giving him your apartment for the baby. Now, you choreographed some shows, folks, just so I don't want anybody to think we're talking about obscure shows. Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, Do Re Mi, Snoopy. Those were big, big shows.
Yes, they were.
Then, in the 60s and 70s, you became a leading television director. The King Family, The Hollywood Palace, Goldilocks. The list is endless. And you directed another dancer, a guy named Fred Astaire.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Now, what kind of experience was that for Marc Breaux?
I was just thrilled to beyond belief that I would be directing Fred Astaire in the 20th century, Fred Astaire salutes the 20th Century Fox.
Was he a down-to-earth guy?
Oh, absolutely.
He was?
Absolutely. He was 75 at the time.
Yes, sir.
And I said, Fred, if you could just maybe do a couple of little steps for me, just to show, and he said, oh, I can't, I've done, he's like me at 75 now. He said, I can't move that well anymore. But at the end, after one of the takes, at the end, he did a couple of turns and a real Fred Astaire style, and I just thought...
It was still there?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You were thrilled by that relationship
Absolutely.
to get to know him.
Absolutely.
And what did Ginger Rogers tell you? That was so interesting, who danced with him.
Oh, well, she says, everybody loves Fred Astaire and everything. I was just as good a dancer as he was, except I did everything backwards and in heels.
Wonderful.
So,
what a story.
Yeah.
Now, you and Dee Dee, y'all adopted two sons.
Yes.
Are either of them in show business?
No, well, Michael, we gave Michael a drum set when he was 4.
Yes.
And he does his little, he has 3 children now, and he does his little gigs on Saturday. But he's a videotape maintenance person.
Yes.
Works for a health company.
Yes.
And
So nobody continued the show business.
no.
But I want to tell you something. I don't think, knowing what little I know about it, the great deal that you know about it, I don't think I'd wish that career on anybody.
No, well, I'll tell you, I don't either, to tell you the truth.
It's too brutal.
It is brutal. It takes a lot of hours, a lot of time. I know when we did Mary Poppins, I think I slept about 2 hours in the whole 6 months. I was very nervous about that, and I wanted to do it as good as it was. The first chance I had at a really big movie. And
Pretty good movie.
it turned out pretty good. Yeah.
You were satisfied.
I was satisfied.
Sir, and this part, you all are not going to have a difficulty believing, you even did some modeling, print modeling.
I did, yes. But that was just, somebody just said, "Oh, can we take a picture of you?" And so I said, "Okay, sure." And I did some print modeling in New York.
But then you even were a video editor.
Yes, that's after I had a heart bypass.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I can't do that anymore. And Nick Vanoff, who was one of the people that I first knew with Charles Weidman, just a friend. He and I used to wash the windows and the floors and do some of our jobs to have dance classes. And he said, and he was always my best friend. He says, "Mark," he says, "I want you to come and be an editor. I want to start this complete post-production, everything after you film anything, you do a post-production." And I said, "Nick, I have no idea about directing, and it's just," and he says, and I said, "As far as editing, I just don't know." And he says, "I will teach you. I have a good, Andy Zoll will teach you. He's one of," and he says, "If I can use you because you can give me jobs, like we can tell people that did Mary Poppins, The Sound of Music,
You're
and
right.
all of that."
Now, I want to interrupt you for a moment because
Okay.
we come to a kind of a grim portion of the life of Marc Breaux.
Mm-hmm.
You suffered a stroke.
I suffered a heart bypass first. And then 23 years later, a second heart bypass. And then 6 months after that, then a stroke.
Why do you look so good?
Well, that's only your opinion.
No, I would not hesitate asking any lady who happened to come by. Now, even to this day, you're recovering from that stroke.
Yes.
You're doing some.
Mm-hmm. I do rehabilitation at the Palm Springs Stroke Activity Center, and luckily I don't think it affected my speech too much.
Not at all.
And but it's my left side that's a little weak.
Do you have films of a lot of your dancing and shows and so on?
Yes, I do.
Do you watch them sometimes?
Sometimes I do.
Is it a great pleasure?
Well, watching the Fred Astaire, not the Fred Astaire, the Fred Waring shows, I have quite a collection of dances from that. I must say, I look at it and I say, wow, that's not too bad.
Some of the dances that you created for various shows are legendary and are considered very important in the history of choreography and dance in the American theater. How do you spend your time now?
Now, well, I used to play golf and tennis, but I don't do that anymore.
You were an avid athlete, weren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Pretty good?
Not bad. In golf, I had a 17, a handicap, which is not very good, but I thought it was excellent because I started with 35, and so it went down. But now, of course, I can't. I told that to my sister. She says, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Well, my left side is a little weak, and I'll never play golf or tennis again." She says, "You'll never be 50 again either." And I said, "I'll get out of here."
Mark, how often do you get back to Louisiana?
Well, I came for Christmas. My sister had an operation, and everything's all right, thank goodness. And I usually, maybe once or twice a year.
You miss that food?
Oh, well, she sends me frozen crawfish étouffée all the time, and so and then she has a condo right next to mine in Cathedral City.
Family has always been, it constantly is present in your conversation. It's very important to you, huh?
Oh, extremely important. That's the most loving I ever got in my life is from my family.
Your family.
And
your craft.
And my craft, yes.
And the audiences.
And yes, that the applause is pretty good.
Pretty good, and you've had so much. Marc, one quick question and quick answer. What do you advise kids who want to go into show business?
Don't get old and don't have a stroke.
Yeah. But go into it?
Oh, to go into it. Just to keep after it. Now, one thing I can tell them to do is if you have a character to do, is to find out as much as you can about the character, even the dance, anything. Go to the library. Just get yourself all...
You believed in a lot of research.
Oh, absolutely. You have to have the research. We did Mary Poppins, we did the chimney sweep number, and I went immediately, as soon as I saw chimney sweep, I went to the library and got all the information I could on chimney sweeps.
Chimney sweeps. Marc, it's been a delight having you back home. We're in Lafayette, but right down the road is Carencro.
Yes.
And I want to tell you, you are a remarkable man, multi-blessings from God, because looks, talent, intellect. You're one of those guys who has it all.
Oh, no.
It's very hard not to leave this interview ending you and even talking bad about you, but I, like all Louisianians.
Well, ditto as far as you're concerned.
I'm very proud to know Marc Breaux.
Thank you.
Merci.
Merci. Tu as pas quoi.
Louisiana Legends is made possible by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana. This informative educational series enables us to discover, through the accomplishments of our fellow Louisianians, the unique character of the state so proudly served by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana for more than 65 years.